fantastic guest with us tonight who's been on with us before. His name's Michael Yan. He is America's most experienced combat correspondent. He also travels around and visits places all over the world where things are happening, protests, immigrant invasions, efforts by governments to suppress the population or do things to them, that he sends dispatches out and lets everybody know what's going on based on something that a term that I learned many years ago when I first started following: ground truth. If you feel like your news is processed through other news outlets, it is. When you get it from Michael Yan, you're getting it from somebody who examines, scrutinizes, and sees it in person in so many different situations. And great to have you on tonight, Michael.
Thanks, Kevin. It's good to get messaging about setting up the next trip to the Darien Gap, which is the next big invasion for quite a while. I've spent a lot of time down there in the Darien Gap. For those, by the way, hello, Bobby. Comments. I can actually see him, and which is a surprise. Interesting. So, Gap is the Darien Gap is a there's a Highway 1 that goes from Alaska. There's one gap where there's no road, and that's between Panama and Colombia, right? And so that's the gap where there's no road. It's about 60 miles away. It's a very severe jungle. Some of the most severe jungle in the world. I've been in a lot of jungles. The area down there is quite intense, and there's mountains, and the Indians are deadly. And what's happening now is why I've been spending so much time down in the jungles. How long have I spent there? 4 or 5 months? I don't even know. Time kind of fades around other things. So, but the migration generally and food issues is what I'm covering. So these January of 2020, actually, when I was down in Hong Kong and covering the fighting there, we had this pandemic, quote unquote, warning about potential famine. And of course, I didn't know the nature of it, unless you're one of the planners. But there's famine and war and death, right? These always go together. And it's funny. That's why I create something called HOP, human osmotic pressure, that push and the pull of migration. Warning about, because as these famines, it's funny. I was on an interview. I don't know, my longtime reader, lady. She said, "You talk about pandemic, famine, and war, Pan for wars." She goes, "No, it's in the Bible." I said, "Oh, yeah, you're right. It's in the Bible. It's the 4 horsemen." Source amnesia, forgot. Because all these things that are happening, they're quite old. It doesn't take any genius. It just, you know, if there's a lot of rain in the mountains, you might get a flash flood. So if you get a big pandemic, you will always get famine, and you will always get war. So if you get a forest fire, you're going to get smoke, right? You're going to get heat and smoke. It's that simple. War. I spent years in wars. I was in the Army, actually, and not as a soldier in the wars. I was there in Afghanistan and Philippines. I was out with the Maoists in Nepal. Just a lot of things, right? And so I've seen a lot of. Most of us haven't seen a lot of famines because in our lifetimes, this has mostly been sort of better agricultural means. We produce fertilizers like crazy, which is a key. Transportation. we can. One of the key causes of famine is food's over there and we're over here, right? So there's plenty of food, but you can't get it actually. And so, the audio's glitching. Might try Frostwell, huh?
Yeah, if you disconnect and reconnect real quick, sometimes it just clears right up.
You mean like cut off and come back to you?
Yeah,
Okay.
Just try that. That might do it, because when I was being quiet, thinking maybe if I interrupted, it would mess up your audio. But I think there's something it's missing parts of your words here and there.
Actually, you know what? Every time I've done an interview from this place, Panama, and have a better connection, because I actually don't think we're going to get a better connection. We should probably just wait until I'm down in Darien, and we can talk about it from there. Yeah, I'm not a quitter. I've just been through this so many times. It's just going to be frustrating for everybody. Place.
No worries. I figured it was just coincidental that you have been putting out so many dispatches about get ready, get prepared, make sure you have a way to get clean water, make sure you are prepared with food. So many things that are threatened by the circumstances that sometimes people can't see over the horizon. And today in Oregon, a good portion of the state seems to have lost power due to high winds, mostly just trees falling on electrical power lines. And one of the things that I wanted to do,
I'm watching you on my app. Watching you guys. I watched it pop up. I'm like, what's wrong with Oregon? I can see who's got power and who doesn't. You might want to look at this app. Power outage.
Poweroutage.com.
Anyway. Yeah.
I'll check it out because okay. And the funny thing about it is,
you so you can say, I'm gonna send it to you. Right? I just sent it to you, so you can tell everybody what it is.
Yeah, and I think it was like at least 110,000 people in the Portland metro area, which is a good chunk of the population there, without any electric power. And I thought it was also kind of neat, not only to have you join us here, even if it's brief, to celebrate Electrical Resiliency Grid Day in Oregon, but also, yep, there it is, 142,000.
You can see it's 142, right?
Yep.
I watched the storm come across. I was watching this as the storm came across, and you could see all these cities. There's this thing, it went right across cities going out with a place, including Texas.
Yeah. Well, and
sorry about the audio.
That's okay. I think people are still. This is bringing into clear focus something that we don't usually talk about when we talk about Oregon. Bobby Richardson posted that we don't even have enough time in a day to talk about what's wrong with Oregon. This is true, but when you add to that the fact that they want us to be completely dependent on an electrical grid that can't handle some blowing winds, and why have I had power here all day? Because 14 months ago, I got a natural gas backup generator installed, and this is now the sixth time that it has gone off in the last 14 months to power the house. It was like the only house in the entire area where, as far as the eye could see, that had lights on and electrical power. It was so significant that a neighbor actually, after a few hours, came over and asked if some medication that he has could be refrigerated in our refrigerator, because that just reminds folks that we are heavily dependent already on an electrical grid, and it is not reliable or resilient to the degree that it needs to be that dependent on it. And then if there are longer outages, then that's really bad news. You mentioned to me something which I think is a very interesting precaution: blackout curtains. I hadn't thought of that, but they want. And why was I able to have a natural gas backup generator? Because they haven't banned them yet, which they would love to do.
Yeah, I hope if the audio is cutting out, I'll just be quiet. But and I got kicked out of Hong Kong because I was a bad boy there. I was causing problems for, and, I was laying up awake at night trying to figure out how to make more problems for CCP. The pandemic kicked off, and as soon as that happened, in my office in Thailand, I had lots of more panels, and then every time the neighborhood would go out of power, which is kind of frequent over there. They put panels up, right?
Yeah, they got lots of sunlight.
Are we still breaking up? Or
yeah, I think sometimes it cuts off some of the words that you're saying.
Your hand if it's cutting off, and I'll be quiet. And but so because we're going to go through some very, very rough times. It's quite clear. And I'm on my 22nd book on famine right now. All right. I read 60 books on pandemic. And remember, what goes together? Pandemic, famine, war, death, and is out in Colombia. I'm always out in Panama or Morocco, or just got back from 4 months and watching the migration situation. Europe is a dead man walking. Europe is really the BASF chemical plant in Ludwigshafen, Germany, and if that closes, that's Europe having a heart attack. And about 8 weeks ago or so, said they're closing down most of their operations. I'm like, that's it. I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, that's the in total nitrogenous fertilizer manufacturers in Europe. This is a big deal. They're the ones that make the nitrogen-based fertilizers like urea, ammonium sulfate. That's why there's probably an extra 4 billion people on Earth, is because we can make the natural gas. We take the hydrogen. It's called the Haber-Bosch process, chemical process. Haber-Bosch, right? By a guy named Fritz Haber. Am I breaking up? Is the audio breaking up? Because you can't hear me. Okay.
I'm getting about 60 to 70%. I know a lot of what you're talking about, so I can
call it a
fill
break
in the gaps.
Because people hate bad audio, so let's call it quits for now.
We'll schedule it another time,
sorry
but I
about
think I just posted links to all the things that you can do to follow Michael at locals.com. Now that your Twitter is been brought back, and then of course you're on, you've got a website and Facebook, and I think I follow every day what you send out, and it's almost like peering into the future. 6 to 12 months is whenever I receive one of your dispatches.
I have been very accurate for years. Accurate. It's not because I have a crystal ball or something. I just work 7 days a week. That's all. It's looking and seeing. A lot of times it's not actually very complicated. Finding the truth as you can find it and accepting it for what it is. Anyway, I should be quiet.
Well, and going to see it yourself, I think, makes a big difference too, because when you go through all these filters and the system of media that is incentivized to campaign for one idea or another. You don't get the authentic ground truth of what's really going on. And when you go to the Netherlands and you actually see what's going on, no one was talking about it here when you were there. And then later they started talking about it.
Yeah. After I started doing some major interviews, and also I was over there with him over and spent 2 days with me. And then that's what really blew it out. That and going on War Room with Ban and Tension. But it's still happening. Except now people know it's happening. It's still happening though.
Yeah. Oh, I know. All these stories, the Darien Gap, that's still happening. What you've been talking about going on in China, when very few people were actually talking about the fact that there were riots and there were people pretty unhappy with the suppression that was going on. Now a lot of people are starting to talk about it. And then of course you talked also very early on about what was being done to send people into the Baltic states and to affect Eastern Europe. And there's clearly a pattern of that's repeating itself over and over here that we see in different parts of the world.
Yeah. Well, I'll call it quits because I know people. So let's do this when I get to Panama. About 1 week or 10 days.
Sounds good. Thanks for coming on, Michael. Sorry for everybody for the audio. It's great to see you though, and stay safe out there, and we'll keep following all your dispatches so that we can stay on top of what's coming, so that we're not caught flat-footed, even though many people might be.
And remember, buy wool. Wool is wool. 100% wool. Nothing else.
Stay warm. That's right.
Talk with you guys later.
All right. Thanks, Michael.